Back in 1916, a badly decayed and brutally dismembered body of an unknown man was found in a cornfield in Nebraska. Next to the body was a giant pit, whose origins no one could figure out. According to the farmer, the pit and the body weren't there the day before. The pit was perfectly round. Even after a thorough investigation, no one could figure out where it came from or how deep it was. As they looked into it, the investigators noticed strange, glimmering strands of light inside the pit. The lights were oddly shaped, almost like a web. Soon after, bursts of flames, different colors, started shooting out of the pit. These flames lasted about 30 seconds and seemed to burn the strands of light. Experts couldn't explain what caused the fire or where the strange lights came from. Worried it might be something dangerous like natural gas or a sinkhole, the authorities roped off the area after removing the body. Not long after that, the pit started to grow. But it didn't just grow. It also started to change shape. Over 6 hours, it went from a perfect circle to a square. Then, just 2 hours later, it turned into a diamond shape. After that, it shifted into a bizarre trapezoidal form. Each time the pit changed shape, the ground around it became unstable. It even started spitting out the same strange-colored flames that were inside the pit. The instability kept spreading, and soon the whole field was affected. The farmhouse was in danger, too. Just as the ground near the house began to crumble, the pit disappeared. The earth returned to its normal state, with nothing unusual left behind. The farmer said everything was just like before. Then, in 1945, another decayed and mutilated body was found in an orange field near Bakersfield, California. Right next to it was another perfectly round black pit. Inside, the same web-like light strands and weird colored flames appeared again. After the pit was found, it began to spread and shift, causing the land around it to become unstable, just like in Nebraska. As it looked like the whole grove and even the nearby highway were about to be destroyed, the pit suddenly vanished, and everything returned to normal. A couple of years later, another mutilated body showed up near Boulder, Colorado. This time, it was beside another perfectly round black pit. The same thing happened again. The pit appeared, shifted, and disappeared, just like the others. Then the same events occurred near Reno, Nevada 3 months later. A year after that, they happened again near Tulsa, Oklahoma. Between 1916 and 2018, a similar series of events occurred 58 times across the United States. Each time, it was marked by a severely mutilated body, a perfectly round, seemingly bottomless pit showing up suddenly, a strange web of light inside the pit, weirdly colored flames burning the light strands, the surrounding land becoming dangerously unstable, the pit disappearing as quickly as it came. With everything returning to normal up to now, no one has been able to explain it. In 2016, DNA from 3 of these bodies was tested by different agencies. These bodies were from 1960, 1999, and 2004. Surprisingly, all the tests came back with the exact same DNA profile from an unknown person. More bodies from this same strange phenomenon were tested. While some of them were too old or damaged to provide results, 41 bodies from 1955 to 2016 all had the same DNA from the same unknown individual. After this, the authorities quietly contacted their contact at the Agency of Helping Hands. With the help of inmate 14, Ward 1, the Not Witch, the agency quickly figured out who was behind all of this. The murders, the mutilations, the appearance of the pits, the instability they caused, and the way the pits vanished as if nothing ever happened. This person was found and arrested on December 21, 2020. The man and his 10-year-old son were discovered living in an apartment in Stanislaus County, California. The man's appearance was disturbing. His son's appearance was even worse. The child appeared to be rotting, but not all over. His hands, feet, and eyes still had some skin and didn't show signs of blood flow. Other parts of his body were severely decomposed. His skin was slipping off in places, exposing muscles and bones. The child was in obvious pain and begged the officers to end his suffering. Before anyone could respond, the father said, "If you kill him, I'll end the world." It sounded crazy, but the officers decided to hear him out. By the end of the conversation, They made a deal. They'd keep the boy alive as long as his father cooperated. To keep the child alive, he gets weekly blood transfusions from inmate 22, Ward 1, Lifeblood. The medical division and the research and development unit oversee the procedure. It's worth noting that inmate 22 is unable to fully heal the child or restore him to full health. The transfusions only keep him alive, but his condition doesn't improve. The agency has serious ethical concerns about the situation, but they've been instructed not to bring it up to the child's father. The child seems to hate the treatments, but he's in too bad a condition to fight back. The child's father is a man named Asher T. Asher is the only inmate known to the agency of Helping Hands who comes from a destroyed parallel world. He's also the only one who has destroyed a parallel world. The agency believes he might be able to destroy other parallels as well. That's why he's classified as an egregore. His nickname comes from his abilities, but also from the fact that he calls himself an atomic bomb. It's also worth noting that inmate 17, Ward 1, the Harlequin, claims to have put out that bomb boy every time he falls. What he means by this, no one knows yet, and he's refused to explain. Inmate 17 once remarked, "One day, my darling girl will end him. It is no less than he deserves for laying hands on her." He refused to elaborate on what he meant by this statement. However, in light of recent discoveries tied to T-Class Agent Rochelle B. and her highly unusual personnel file, agency officials now believe they understand the implications of his words. Asher has displayed extreme hostility toward Rochelle B. since the moment he found out she was also being held at AHH NASCU. This hostility has taken the form of daily threats, explicitly targeting her safety and well-being. Recognizing the significant danger Asher poses to Rochelle, the agency has taken precautionary measures. They assigned T-Class Agent Michael W. to accompany her whenever she interacts with Asher, including during interviews, in the hope that his presence will deter any violent behavior from Asher. The agency has also concluded that the best course of action would be to eliminate Asher as soon as it becomes practical to do so. Strangely, inmate 17 took it upon himself to inform Asher of the agency's intention to terminate him. In response, Asher made it clear that he is not concerned for his own life. His only priority is the safety and well-being of his son. Physically, Asher is a man who appears far older than he actually is. Despite being 36 years old in chronological terms, his body shows the wear and tear of someone aged 70 to 75. Standing at 5 feet 9 inches with a lean frame, he has gray hair and an unusual set of orange-colored eyes that are strikingly vivid. Though slender, he possesses an unexpected and formidable strength. Asher's medical and psychological profile lists intermittent explosive disorder as his primary diagnosis. Over the years, he has demonstrated patterns of violent outbursts, obsessive tendencies, and difficulty managing his impulses. What sets Asher apart, however, is not his volatile temperament but his unparalleled ability, a power so unique that even the agency struggles to fully understand it. To comprehend his gift, one must first accept a stark truth about the nature of reality. It is not as solid or unchanging as people like to think. Under certain conditions, particularly destructive ones, reality can fracture, expand uncontrollably, or even consume itself. Asher's son creates those destructive conditions simply by existing. His presence alone destabilizes reality in ways that defy conventional understanding. Remarkably, Asher has the ability to undo this damage. Using an unknown material or force, he repairs the fractures in reality, restoring stability. His methods appear to operate beyond the constraints of time and space, allowing him to reach into the past or future to fix what has been broken. In essence, Asher can manipulate time as part of his repairs. While the agency is grateful for Asher's ability to stabilize reality, it is impossible to ignore the fact that the destruction only occurs because of the harm Asher himself has inflicted on his son. Currently, Asher cannot be destroyed by any means known to the agency. However, he is aging rapidly and showing signs of physical decline. The agency hopes that his failing health will lead to a natural death in the near future. Should this not happen, the Research and Development Unit is working on methods to ensure his termination. Adding another layer of complexity, Asher has a deep and unsettling association between his late wife from his original parallel, whom he calls Ray, and T-Class Agent Rochelle B. It is important to note that Asher does not originate from this version of reality. While there is another version of Asher in this parallel, agency officials believe he resides in a location referred to as City Bright, a domain overseen by Inmate 17. Inmate 17, however, denies this claim outright. "I would never let a man who hurt my darling girl set foot in my city," he stated firmly. As a potential means of managing Asher, the interviewer has suggested enlisting the help of Inmate 2, Ward 1, the Bye-Bye Mommy. This inmate could potentially create an immersive, controlled reality based on a recurring dream Asher has mentioned in the past. What's crazier is that I was only able to bring him back because of a tattoo I got when I was 17. I got the tattoo at a street carnival. It was in red ink and covered my entire palm. Even though I had that tattoo for years, I couldn't remember what it looked like. It made me sick to even glance at it. Like everything else in my life back then, that carnival was completely messed up. It wasn't just wrong. It was wrong. Place no one should ever go. Probably the kind of place no one is supposed to go. I never would have found it if my sister's creepy boyfriend hadn't dragged us there. His name was Jason, and he was an even bigger loser than I was. Creepier, too, if you can believe it. Jason took us straight to the ticket booth. But instead of handing me a ticket, the worker bit me and licked up the blood. Then he told me I tasted like an atomic bomb and waved me through. When it was my sister's turn, he did the same to her. Bit her, licked up her blood, then said she tasted like a black hole and shoved her through. But when Jason stepped up, the worker bit him, licked his blood, and spat it out. "You taste like nothing at all," the worker said. "And carnivals have no room for nothing." Jason looked absolutely crushed. That made me laugh. What can I say? I was an asshole. But I didn't laugh for long because everything inside the carnival was insane. Worse, everything in it was wrong. And I loved it. I loved it so much it scared me. I don't like what that says about me. In my defense, I didn't think any of it was real. I figured I was hallucinating because I was high. That was kind of my default state back then. When my sister and I finally got tired of the madness, we made our way back to the entrance where Jason was waiting. He started yelling at us for leaving him behind, then broke up with my sister on the spot. What an asshole. We both were. About 2 months later, someone new moved into our neighborhood. Her name was Ray. She was tough on the outside, but inside, she was soft. The kind of soft that gets eaten alive. She wanted so badly to belong, and I was more than happy to help her out. She was too young. My sister even said so. I didn't care. Nobody thinks they're too old for someone they want. I don't know if Jason wanted her to, or if he was just punishing me. Either way, he got to her first. And of course, he ruined everything. Ruined her too. I didn't ruin anything. Instead, I showed her the carnival. Guess who she liked better? You know the answer because she's you. You always liked me better. You were soft inside, but you were still a monster. Jason didn't like that about you, but I did. I didn't get to enjoy it for long, though. You ran away from me even though I was the one who helped you grow your scales. After you left, I kept going to the carnival. I thought maybe I'd find you there again. But you never came back. Your loss. The carnival was insane, and it was wrong. But it was magic. Pure magic. And the magic cleaned me. It scorched me from the inside out and filled me with dreams of cosmic fire. Fire that burned holes through the world, bored tunnels through starfields, and lit up a darkness so vast and incomprehensible that it might as well have been eternal. Before the carnival, my insides were like that darkness. Endless, eternal, impenetrable. But the carnival lit me up. It laced me with light. And it was beautiful. I was beautiful. Whenever I closed my eyes, I could see the brightness inside myself. It was beautiful and horrifying. The tattoo I got at the carnival taught me how to use that fire. The design, the one that made me dizzy and sick every time I looked at it, somehow held every secret to every universe. It taught me to use the fire to bore tunnels of my own. And best or worst of all, it taught me how to crawl through those tunnels. I saw things no one else has ever seen. I stood on the jagged edge of reality, where existence is still raw and erupting, unstable and unfinished. I knelt before supernovae and magnetars as their immense force split my atoms apart. But the fire inside me always brought me back. One blink, and I was whole again, kneeling right where I'd been before the explosion. Destroyed and remade. Destroyed. Remade. Destroyed. Remade. Over and over, in an endless loop of annihilation and rebirth. It didn't take long for me to learn how to control it. To destroy and remake. Destroy and remake. Again and again and again. Eternally. It is beautiful, but it is horror beyond horror. I did not want to be eternity. I did not want to burn or be burned or destroy or be destroyed or make or be remade. So one night, instead of going to the carnival, I found my stepmother's potato peeler. Then I got very, very, very high. As high as you can be without passing out. Then I peeled the skin off my palm. The tattoo came with it. It bled. But the blood didn't come out. It sank in because the place where the tattoo had been was now a hole. Tunnel. Through the tunnel, I saw an eternity of starless dark laced with cosmic fire. The hole in my hand pulled at me. It felt like gravity itself dragging me from the inside out. I thought I was going to fall through the hole and tumble into the darkness until I reached the ragged edge of existence, where I would kneel and scream while my atoms were split and remade again and again forever with no end. But I didn't fall in. Instead, I woke up. I looked at my hand. It hurt so much it burned. But that burn wasn't fire. It was just a raging infection. And the wound was just a wound. I was so relieved I cried. Without the tattoo, the darkness grew back. But that was okay. It was better. After that, I got my life together somehow. I ended up in the Navy and was assigned to a nuclear submarine. While I was on the submarine, I had nightmares. Endless dark, endless destruction, endless rebirth. Sometimes when I woke up, the hole in my hand was back. Through it, I would always see the endless dark veined with cosmic fire. When I wasn't on the submarine, I had no nightmares. Only good dreams, mostly of Ray. And I had no hole in my palm, only a scar. So I didn't re-enlist. When I got out, I found Ray. You didn't want to be found, but I insisted. You tried to leave a couple of times, a lot of times, but I made it hard. It was easy to make it hard for you. I thought you stayed because you loved me, but now I think you just stayed because I made it hard. We had a baby. We named him Jackson, like basically everyone did that year. We didn't know everyone was naming their baby that, though. We just knew he was Jack before we ever met him. I was more excited than you. A lot more excited. I think that surprised us both. It was okay. I figured you had postpartum depression. And I knew you'd had a worse childhood than me, so who knows what it was dredging up for you. It didn't help that I wasn't the best boyfriend. In fact, I was a pretty shitty one. But I was a damned good dad. I loved our baby so much. That love burned brighter than the carnival light could ever hope to burn. It burned away the endless darkness inside me and transformed it into light. Eternal, endless light scorching me clean and eating me alive. It hurt so much, but I loved how it hurt. You didn't love him that way. You thought there was something wrong with him. It was so bad I was afraid to leave you alone with him. One morning I heard Jack fussing. I followed the sound to the living room. You were standing still as a statue in the thick, consumptive light spilling through the window, like rotten melted gold. You were holding my son and staring into his eyes. It should have been beautiful. The end of whatever mental block you had for him. Instead you said, "There's something wrong with our baby. He wants to tell me what it is, but he doesn't know how. I don't ever want him to learn how. I don't ever want to know. Ash, I don't want to know. I want to make sure I never know. You didn't want to hurt him. I'll give you that. You just wanted to hurt yourself. And you did. I got you out of the house on a psych hold. When you were gone, I remembered how to breathe again after not being able to breathe for so long I'd forgotten how. Like I could finally rest because the monster had departed and was no longer waiting in the endless dark. Jack died that night. I woke up and he wasn't there. He hadn't been there for a while. The light inside me didn't go out. It burned brighter, eating me as I screamed for my son. The light ate holes in my body and reopened the wound in my hand. That wound became a tunnel, and it was full of light and gravity pulling me inside. I wanted to be dead. I wanted the light to eat me. So for the first time in years, I got really, really high. And I let the gravity pull me into the tunnel. I didn't die. I dreamed. You were in the dream. You were so happy and healthy. You were holding him in our living room in a way I've never seen you hold him. Even though I saw you, you didn't see me. I was invisible. I wasn't there to you. I don't think I've ever been there to you. Your mother was there too. You were glad. You were never glad to see her. Jack sat in your lap, pulling your hair and picking at your shirt and babbling. In the middle of babbling, he looked at me. He looked at me. He saw me. I was there to him. And then he reached for me with the biggest smile I've ever seen. I stared back at him. I stared and stared and stared as love ate me alive and thought, why can't I just stay here and stare at you forever? Then I woke up. I heard Jack fussing. Before I could think too hard, I got out of bed. I found you in the living room, still as a statue in the thick, consumptive light spilling through the window, like rotten melted gold. You were holding my son, staring into his eyes. It should have been beautiful. But you ruined it by saying, there's something wrong with our baby. He wants to tell me what it is, but he doesn't know how. I don't ever want him to learn how. I don't ever want to know. Ash, I don't want to know. I want to make sure I never know. Then you gave me the worst look anyone has ever given me. Then you said, this has already happened. I remember this. I don't want this. I don't want this again. I don't want to be here again. I'd rather die. You still didn't want to hurt him. I'll give you that. You just wanted to hurt yourself. And you did. I didn't call 911 this time. I talked you down. I kept you alive all by myself. I stayed up all night with you and watched Jack as he slept. In the morning, he was fine. He stayed fine. Until you left us again 3 years later. I deserved it. He didn't. You left on a Saturday morning while Jack watched kids' shows. I took him to church the next morning. On the way there, we got T-boned and he died on impact. The light inside me didn't go out. It only grew. The scar on my hand burned open into a tunnel. I went through. I dreamed my favorite dream, where you are happy and no one sees me except our baby. The dream where I get to stare at my smiling son forever. And I woke up on that Saturday morning to the sound of Jack blaring kids' shows on the TV. You woke up next to me a few minutes later. When you heard him laughing in the living room, you asked me why this was happening again. Because I'm a good father, is what I said. You cried, then you packed up and left. I let you and decided I just wouldn't go to church the next day. But Jack had a seizure that night and died. As I stared at his body, the hole in my hand burned itself open. I let gravity pull me into the cosmic fire within, where I dreamed my favorite dream. Then I woke up again on Saturday morning to the sound of Jack singing along to kids' shows on the TV. You woke up at the same time and you cried so hard. You cried even harder when I didn't let you leave. You tried a couple of times, but you gave up after I hurt you. Hurting you actually was an accident, but I wasn't sorry. I'm still not sorry because it kept you there. About a year later, Jack started showing signs you didn't like. I didn't like those signs either, but I didn't do anything because you were already coming down so hard on him. He was only 5, and it crushed him. Of course it did. You were his mother. The one person who's supposed to love him no matter what. What was I supposed to do except defend him from you? When he was 7, you left for the 3rd time. You snuck away in the middle of the night. Do you have any idea what it's like to wake up at 6 on a regular Wednesday morning to find your wife gone and your 2nd grader blue and cold in his bed? Do you care? Would you care? Can you care? The tunnel in my hand burned open. I went through and I had my favorite dream. When I woke up, the world reset to the Tuesday night before he died. I opened my eyes just as you left. I stopped you. And in the morning, our son was fine. He was fine for 2 more years. You weren't fine. I don't think you were ever fine again. I'm sorry for that. But he's my son. He's the one who fills me with light. Even when those signs you didn't like, the signs I didn't like, started stacking up and up and up, he still filled me with light. One night, I caught you talking to him in that special way you do. I didn't hear what he said, I just know it made you cry in a way I have never seen anyone cry. When I caught you talking to him in that special way you shouldn't, you told me there was something terribly wrong with him. You said he wasn't supposed to exist. That's why he kept dying. Because he wasn't supposed to be. I hated you for that. You had the privilege of being the only thing keeping him alive and healthy, a privilege I would end the world to have and did not care. You didn't want him. You didn't love him. But you still had all the power over him. I tried to make you understand this, but you screamed over me. You screamed that he was your mistake, and you were going to fix that mistake. That made him cry, and that made me furious. My son isn't a mistake. He's made mistakes. He's suffered for your mistakes, and suffered immensely for mine. That suffering has ruined him. But he's my son. And ruined or not, he is just a little boy. My little boy. I love him so much the love eats me alive until there's nothing left of me except that love. And then the love remakes me. Again and again. Destruction and rebirth. You killed yourself that night. I went into the hole in my hand after you died, but before he did. I went past eternal darkness laced with cosmic fire. Jack was the fire. Jack was light. You were dark. You were always so dark. You will always be so dark. I dreamed my favorite dream, where you're happy and healthy and oblivious to me, and where I don't care because my son sees me and smiles just for me. When I woke up, I heard you talking to him in that special way you do. I stopped him before he could even answer you. I don't know if that was the mistake. I don't know if resetting the world before he actually died was the mistake. I don't know if resetting the world 4 times in total was the mistake. I don't know if the universe or God or the laws of existence or some crazy loophole gave me 3 chances to save my son, but decided a 4th was too many. All I know is the day after that, the world started to fall apart. Within a week, it was as good as gone. So I reset the world again. You tried to stop me. You tried to stay behind. You told me, I'd rather die than be with you. I made you be with me anyway. I took us through the eternal darkness. I closed my eyes and dreamed my favorite dream, where you're happy and where you never tell me you'd rather die than be with me, where my son reaches for me even though you're the one holding him. And when I woke up, Jack was 3 years old again and blaring kids shows on the TV. He was 3, but I was still the same age I'd been when he was 9. You weren't. You were the age he'd been when he was 3. I don't know how that works. Maybe because you're special. Maybe because you know how to talk to people in that special way. Or maybe just because you're dark. Everything happened again, exactly the same. All of it. Except the very end, where I stopped you from ever talking to him in your special way. Even though you never talked to him, even though he never told you the terrible things that made you cry, the things that made you decide he wasn't supposed to exist, you left again that same night. Why do you always leave? Why will you always leave? I stayed up with him all night, but it didn't matter. He didn't make it to morning. He can't ever make it without you. So I reset the world again. This time the reset went wrong. This time I got lost in the tunnel. I knelt at the edge of existence in an endless cycle of destruction and rebirth for so long I forgot everything but my son. I even forgot you. When I returned, I remembered. But you were already gone and Jack was alone, sobbing. I picked him up and together we went into the night to find you. But there was something very wrong. There were lights in the sky, vast bodies of light made of eyes and teeth, gliding through the sky and burning craters into the darkness. Jack began to seize in my arms. That's when I knew I would never find you. Around us, the world was turning into light. Shards and ribbons of it drifted down and burned the dark away along with everything beneath it. All the matter of and beneath and around existence. All the matter and all that matters. The tunnel opened in my hand. A haven of darkness shot through with cosmic fire. I went through, but this time I didn't dream my favorite dream. Instead, I saw the world end in teeth and light. Devastation, the destruction of everything that ever was and had ever been and would ever be. Particles and shards and billows and atoms. All the pieces needed for a whole entire world. Drifting in the vast and endless dark. Just so you know, I used those pieces first. I used every last one of those pieces before I ever even dreamed of breaking a single piece off another world. We stared at it forever, our son and I, wishing you were there to see it with us. He was so sad without you, so immensely heartbroken. To cheer him up, I taught him how to bore tunnels of his own, how to banish darkness with endless light. That made him smile again. I loved to make him smile, but I would give anything to undo that lesson. When the lesson was done, we closed our eyes. I dreamed my favorite dream, and then I woke up. Jack was 3 years old again, blaring cartoons on the TV. You were in bed next to me, young like him. I was old, but I didn't care. I didn't care when you woke up and cried, either. I didn't even care when you told me to let you die. I did care when you told me to let him die before I destroyed everything. I was more careful with this reset. Much more careful with him and even more careful with you. But you still left us. Again and again and again you left us. No matter what I did to make you stay, no matter how badly I hurt you to keep you with us, you still always found a way to leave. Every time you left, my son died. And every time I reset the world to bring him back, he became worse. Worse and worse and worse. Through every reset, his worseness stayed and compounded. And I kept aging. You're the only one who never changed at all. Maybe because you were special. Maybe because you didn't love us. Or maybe just because you're dark. No matter what I did, you left in the end. And after you left, my son always died. I reset the world again and again and again to save him. But I never saved him. I never stopped you leaving. I never stopped him dying. Finally, I reset the world so many times it broke into pieces forever. Once it was broken, I couldn't reset it again. I could only watch the destruction drifting through the darkness. After that final reset, I closed my eyes and went through the tunnel to search for other worlds. To find the world in my favorite dream. I never did. I searched for eternity. I searched everything. I searched from the beginning of beginnings to the end of ends, and did not find it. To my horror, I did not even find another world where our son existed. Out of all the worlds, he was born in only one. And I had destroyed it. If you had just stayed with us like you were supposed to, I never would have had to save him. I never would have broken reality into pieces to try and fail to keep him alive. It's your fault. You kill him, always. You are his death. When I finally accepted that, I realized I had my answer. The way for him to live without you was to make sure you were never his mother. So that is what I did. I chose a place where he was never born, and brought him there. But it was too late. Even though I finally saved his life, I was too late to save him. Now he's ruined. I don't know if it's more your fault or mine or his. All I know is you were right. There's something wrong with our baby, and now that I know what it is, I would give everything not to know. But he's my baby boy, so I learned how to repair him. He needs fresh new pieces. Fresh new pieces from fresh new bodies. I know it's awful, but it's the only way. He's falling apart. Every minute of every day he's falling apart. So I figured out how to fix him, how to put him back together with fresh new pieces. The people those pieces come from don't deserve what I do, but it's not about deserving. It's about what my son needs. And he needs lots of new pieces all the time. Because when you live in a place you never existed at all, that place eats you alive. Like antibodies attacking a virus. But my son isn't a virus. He's a little boy. I brought him here to save him. That's all. I brought him to a world where we don't have to think about you. This is where he has to be. My broken baby boy. My boy who can have no mother. My boy who isn't supposed to exist. My boy whose existence is such a violation that the world eats him, and he eats it right back. Saving him was wrong. It was an abomination. It was a horror. But I love him so much. I love him so much it eats the darkness. This love consumes the darkness that is him. Consumes him, leaving only itself. Leaving only eternal, endless light veined with cosmic fire. I have to love him that way because you never loved us at all. Love is why I do what I do. Why I take the pieces, the molecules, the cells, the atoms of the world I accidentally destroyed to maintain this one. Because he's here, and it costs other worlds. I know that. The price of his life is destruction on an incomprehensible scale. It isn't worth it to anyone or anything but me. I know that. But if you try to stop me, I will take him to another world, because you're not his mother in any of the other worlds anyway. and break this world down to keep the new one running. What else am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to live without him? How was I supposed to stay in a world that didn't even want him to exist? How was I supposed to forgive a world that killed him again and again and again? How am I supposed to forgive you? I know you're not her, but even though you aren't her, I will never forgive you. And now you know why. You know that my son isn't supposed to exist in a place where he was never born at all. You know his presence is making your world fall apart. You know his presence would make any world fall apart. Most importantly, you know that his presence is what's keeping me from breaking your world down into pieces to fix a different one. As long as he's here, he will eat holes in the world. But as long as he exists, I will fix those holes. I will always patch them. I will always fill them. I will always destroy and break down other worlds to keep this one whole because he's in it. It's not my fault. It's yours. Why did you leave him? Why couldn't you just love us? You could have been fully light. Instead, you were only dark. You're always dark. You will always be dark. I still dream my favorite dream. The dream where I'm invisible. Where you're made of light and where you laugh with your mom and hold our son. Where no one sees me but our baby. Where he just stares and smiles at me. I still wonder where that world is. Where everything is right, where it's all how it's supposed to be. Where you're happy, where you love him and you love me. Where our baby is still a baby and the world is ahead of all of us. Where my son sees me and smiles. I've looked for that world since the beginning of time. But I have never been able to find it and I have never been able to build it. But I still see it. I still want to know why I can't stay there. Invisible to everyone but my son. And stare at him forever. I would do anything if I could just stay and stare at my baby forever.